So we start.
Seems like it.
I guess so.
So hello everybody, and
Hello.
welcome. Hello everybody, and welcome to this new session. We are going to discover how fashion can contribute to make fashion cleaner. I am Oreste Carvounis, and I am the moderator for this session. And I'm very excited about this topic, as we all know fashion is a real issue for the environment. In regards of the climate change, it is 2.1 billion tons of carbon emitted each year, which are mostly due to the upstream stages, like the raw material extraction, the transformation, the production, and the dyeing. Most of the textile fiber used, like more than 50% worldwide, is from petroleum bases. Fresh water consumption, chemical entrants, wasted water, microplastic, and intensive energy use should be reduced, and at the end eliminated in order to make fashion regenerative. Seaweed natural polymers, seaweed fiber, seaweed extract for dyes could be the answer. Like all trees and plants, algae sequester the carbon from the atmosphere. Creating biopolymers from this carbon reservoir results in a product which is carbon neutral and even carbon negative. The final polymer is the same that the polymer you find in the sea. So the session today will debate of the fashion revolution, as indeed fashion has started its revolution by decreasing the use of the polybag, by using natural dyes instead of chemical dyes, and by using biomaterials for textile fibers. So here with us, we have 4 speakers. So please introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and maybe we could start with Annick.
Is she still on the call? I think she might have dropped off.
Okay, so we'll start with maybe Tessa.
Oh, fantastic. Hi, so glad to be here. Really excited to chat through this panel and discuss this clearly massive global problem. But to introduce myself, my name is Tessa Callaghan. I am a co-founder and CEO here at Algiknit, where we're developing new fibers and yarns that are sourced from seaweed, kelp, hence being in this panel and in this amazing event as well, in order for us to help transition not just the fashion, but the textiles industry overall into circular economy, where everything that goes into production and everything that goes out is environmentally beneficial, excuse me, and allows every consumer to make conscious, intentional choices as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Tessa. Francis, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely, thank you, Oreste. So my name is Francis Field. I'm co-founder of Solublue. Solublue is a company, a material technology company based in Cambridge. We're developing technology to convert the seaweed plant into a whole range of biomaterials that can be used to replace single-use plastic in multiple applications in different markets and industry sectors. Our material is actually edible. It's totally natural and non-toxic, which means that wherever it ends up, it's not going to cause harm to animals, ecosystems, natural life. We get a huge demand from fashion and textiles. We're addressing that now, and we think we can really help these industries reduce their reliance on plastic and reduce carbon emissions as well. Textile industry in particular obviously has a big plastic problem. Most of the microplastics that are produced when we wash our clothes, for example. And I think consumers are increasingly aware of this. But at Solublue, we're also looking at the problems that people are less well aware of. And a really good example of this is the poly bag. This is essentially a plastic bag made from petroleum, which all garments are placed in at point of manufacture and are removed at point of sale. So the consumer never even sees this. Half of all plastic ending up in the ocean is from this type of material, flexible plastics. So, when we learned this, we knew that, recyclable products weren't the solution, because we can't always control where this is ending up. Only 2% of this type of plastic is recycled. So we knew we needed to make rapidly biodegradable polymer products that were safe for ecosystems, and that's what we've done. We're developing turnkey solutions so that the packaging manufacturers can stop producing plastic and start producing Solublue instead. And I hope this is going to have a lot of relevance to our discussion today. Oreste.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Francis. Adam, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thank you, Oreste, and cheers to Biomarine for having us on today. It's really, really good to be here, and great to be with Tessa and Francis and the other person that seems to have dropped off. So hopefully she can come back. So my story from Inland Sea really is we're trying to establish our brand as the pioneer for using seaweed in fashion. So last year we completed a Kickstarter and successfully raised enough money to create our own T-shirts, which we produced in Lithuania. And off the back of that, we have ended up, as luck would have it, and just the planets aligned and all of that, we ended up being put in a position here in the UK to spin our own fibres using C-cell and fully traceable cotton, which we're just finishing now. So we will have the first ever fabric made using C-cell that's been made in the UK. So we're the first ones to do that. So really, I know that C-cell only has a small percentage of seaweed, but I know that there's going to be, this is just the beginning. So I just want to really push and promote using seaweed in clothing, and kind of following just off the back of what Francis just said, polybags. We're on a mission at the moment to try and find polybags which are made out of seaweed. And this is obviously, again, my brand. I suppose our brand is like the people facing. I want to be able to connect with the people so that we can create the demand and connect the dots, going back to people like Francis and Tessa. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, perfect, Adam. Thank you. So Annick, can you introduce yourself, please? I see that Annick came back, but I don't know if it's working very well.
She's gone. She's gone. But she'll be back.
She'll be back because it's worth it. So no problem. So we'll start with the questions now. So Tessa, you have been using and developing the seaweed fiber. Could you tell us a little how did you develop it and explain us the concept, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to keep it short again because we don't have forever, but we started Algiknit as basically a group of designers. My background is textiles, knitwear, and menswear design. And we were really frustrated by the fact that we had, like Adam, not the world of choices that we were hoping to, and not the amount of say in the change taking place within the industry. And so kind of as a practice, we looked at the material space, at the fashion industry, and at the textile supply chain, and basically wanted to see what would a solution need to be in order for it to solve the challenges both on the environmental side and on the design supply chain side as well. And so with this kind of robust set of parameters, it whittled down all of the things that we were able to do. So we know we need to work with existing supply chains. We know we need to be fast. We can't be developing multiple challenges at the same time. And with that, we need this to be environmentally beneficial. And that basically left us with one solution that actually was able to minimize, if not offset, the entirety of the polluting components that are made with legacy fibers. And so for that, it almost made our lives quite easy. There aren't so many things that you're able to work with that actually are extremely abundant and environmentally beneficial and already in so that's kind of where we've been thus far, and now, you know, really focusing on the details, making sure that we're scaling with both planet and people in mind.
Thank you very much. Adam, you took another way, as you explained just before, exploring the sea cell, which is a mix between seaweed and cellulosic fiber. Could you explain to the people here what is it and why you did this choice?
To be honest, the reason that I chose it was the only fiber that contained seaweed that was commercially available at the time. It has been around for quite a good number of years, I think, as well. So it's kind of tried and tested. So rather than look for something else, probably just the most viable solution was to use something that was totally on the market, ticked all the boxes. You know, obviously we checked it out, and the accreditations are really extensive. However, you know, I don't think it's the ultimate answer, because it isn't 100% seaweed at the end of the day. It's either eucalyptus or beechwood pulp mixed with seaweed, so then there's just seaweed sprinkled into it. So I think I actually, like, when I first came across it and got excited and everything in the naivety of it all last year, because I've actually called it, like, our t-shirts made out of seaweed fiber, but truthfully it's not really seaweed fiber. I now say it's a t-shirt that contains seaweed, but we want to, obviously, by the time when the seaweed fibers do come along, that's when we can obviously say that. So yeah, so really it's very much a starting point for us all using C-Cell. They've obviously come really far quite early on, I think, with pushing seaweed and seeing the benefits of seaweed, and hopefully Smart Fiber may even bring to market other fibers with more seaweed in. And obviously Tessa is coming along hopefully soon, and I hope our brand will be right there ready and waiting to use it and spin here in the UK using the fibers, and whether that's, you know, like at the moment we're using cotton, and we know that cotton has gone extensionally more expensive. It's gone through the roof, so we're looking for different materials now. Seaweed obviously is going to be the biggest one for our brand anyway, and then also things like hemp as well, so whether there could be a mix of hemp and seaweed at some point for clothing. There's just so many options that actually makes so much sense, not only like financially, but like seaweed, we know the pluses of seaweed, the way it grows and how much carbon it sequesters. It just ticks so many boxes. So yeah, hopefully our brand will be there. So as and when, we hope what we're trying to establish here in the UK is really the infrastructure for the spinning, so that we're ready and waiting to have it, and our brand is there as well. And also we hope to be able to manufacture for other brands as well. We're not just going to manufacture for our brand. We'll happily spin and create the fabric for other bigger brands as well.
So you mean that you have made a partnership with a spinner as well, locally?
Exactly, yeah. So the only it's basically the only commercial spinners in the UK. Luckily, it's about a 40-minute drive from where I am now, in a place called Duckenfield in Greater Manchester. So obviously the UK, and particularly the northwest of the UK, was very famous, the Industrial Revolution, for cotton spinning and for the mills. So, I mean, there's mills all around where we are. So we can use that really now. What I'm hoping to do anyway is we can start spinning again in this country, but we'll do it in the most transparent, traceable way, and hopefully be at the beginning of the green revolution for fashion, and be there for when these seaweed fibres are going to, or the fibres really. Doesn't necessarily have to be seaweed, but as we know, seaweed is just so amazing. So yeah,
Sorry, I'd like to pick up on that point, Adam, because I think it's a really good one around the need often to mix seaweed with other materials and the choices we need to make around that. And then leading off that, the terminology and the language we use to describe what it is that we're making. And it's a challenge because to some extent we're operating within the shadow of industries like the plastics industry and the bioplastics industry that have actually profited and prospered on misinformation and confusing terms around recyclability, bio-based, etc., bio-derived. What is it? And so we are at a kind of tipping point now where there's a lot of different companies starting to use seaweed for various different biomaterials, and people are using seaweed in different ways and in different proportions, and we have to be very careful that we're not misleading people and we're not just producing a bioplastic product that has 3% seaweed and greenwashing, at least the greenwashing. So for example, we're working on processing technology to use as much of the plant as possible. So we're not using the extract, we can use the whole plant. And, to speak to your other point, we need to make these technologies, these materials commercially available so that people like you can start using them and can start using them locally and also globally around the world. It's great that you're using manufacturing equipment that's just around the corner, it sounds like.
Yes, exactly.
I actually would love to add on to that just super quickly, not trying to take it away, but I think that the really important part that goes into how we not only develop but how we communicate, of course transparency is really key there. And I think that as both innovators and implementers, it's our responsibility to take as much command of defining these new terminologies and the definitions, as well as, Francis, as you're kind of doing, calling out the greenwashing that can happen when we're just using terminology that doesn't necessarily make sense, have a definition, or reflect any of the connotations that may be considered by the general public.
And I'm going to propose something because, sorry, Adam, I just briefly, we've thought about this a lot, and we think a really good solution to that is pinning the definition to what the EU, I don't know what the US is saying at the moment, but what the EU is defining as natural polymers. And these are things that they exist in nature. And if they exist in nature, it means that if the product, which has the same polymer in it, ends up in nature, there's bacteria, there's things that eat that, and you can guarantee that works. And so this is a directive, effectively at a EU level, which has been interpreted by different countries. So there is differences in that interpretation, but fundamentally the definition of what a natural polymer is itself is a very good one I think we should try to adhere to as closely as possible and follow as that develops and is interpreted in industry.
Yes.
Adam.
Yeah, I'll just quickly follow on.
Sorry, I see that Annick is here, so maybe you can introduce yourself, Annick. Sorry, because we jumped you because at some time we had a technical issue.
I know. Yes.
Maybe you can introduce yourself quickly and tell us what you do.
I am the co-head of NGO in France. Which gathers 350. I'm not sure you hear me now. I'm not so sure. So if I can't make it, I will have to leave. It seems we have a major Wi-Fi problem, not only us, but the whole environment, because we
it's okay now. It's okay. Maybe
go friends, it's okay now. So I speak very quickly. We are 350 companies in France working together on making fashion more sustainable from A to Z, from the yarn to the distribution. And we work on plastic, and we work on how to eradicate plastic from garments, from polybags, whatever. And we make companies work together, which is our key point, like 20, 50 companies work together on several topics. And fighting fossil is one of our key subjects.
Yes, and also, Annick, you are very involved in relocalization of the garment industry. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yes, for years we've been working on on-demand manufacturing and want to make it happen with a price which is not too heavy. And we are opening a totally digital factory just right now in Roubaix, where I am today, to manufacture in 1 week for big retailers, like industrial manufacturing, but in a different way.
Yes. So it joins what said Adam also with the importance to try to relocalize some production, because today we need indeed to have more sustainable products with a traceability. And we know how it's difficult to track the garment life from the raw material to the retail store. And of course, relocalization is one of the answers. And also it permits to lessen so many impacts. Francis.
Yes, and especially the North region where we stay has a lot of coast and sea shores. And so the idea of bio natural elements from seaweed or other plants here in the North region.
Yes, and what is fantastic is that I learned also lately that in France, we have the first producers of the linen culture. And we don't have the sector of the linen available in France, and we have to send all the raw material in other countries, in Eastern Europe and in China, to spin it. And then they return us this material. So it makes no sense now. This globalization has to stop. And we see that with the know-how we have in France and in Europe, we could rebuild this industry. Francis, so you've been talking about your technology for the polybag. Tell us how you wish to replace it and with which disruptive solution.
Oh, so that's a big challenge. That's the first thing to say. It's a big challenge that we face because in the EU, we're making, not us yet, but everyone else is making 38 billion polybags. Worldwide, it's 300 billion. So, you know, we're up against commodity plastics. And so the price has got to be, it's got to be dirt cheap, and it's got to be available everywhere.
Sorry, is that per year, Francis?
That's per year.
Per year, yeah.
38 billion, yeah. And so we need to enter that market. We need to enter it fast because it's causing an environmental problem. Luckily, there's a willingness to do that from manufacturers, from brands. They know they need to clean up their act. So we're working on a solution. I think we've secured the raw material supply. So this is going to be available all over the world, and we're working on turnkey manufacturing solutions that can be partnered out and, you know, produced locally wherever it's needed. So the big challenge becomes about cost, and we look to the bioplastics industry to see how they scaled, because that was initially expensive and it's now cheap. It's still twice the cost of plastic, but plastic is a health hazard. So people are looking at bioplastic. It's still not a good solution. We're making biopolymers, which we think are the solution. So when PLA bioplastic, for example, was introduced, it was around $200 per kilogram. And then over around 30 years, that came down to just a few dollars per kilogram. So that's like a 200-fold investment in price. So we know that as volumes go up, if the supply chains are robust and manufacturing technology stays the same, we can bring the price down. On top of that, the demand is so great that we have clients coming to us saying, we will pay 10 times the price of the poly bags we're buying today, because it is such a big problem that they urgently need to solve.
We work with big retailers as well on reducing the size of one poly bag, which saves half of the plastic utilization. And some governments don't need poly bags at all, but everybody's so used to put poly bags everywhere that they just do it. Then it doesn't need any poly bag to go through the supply chain. It just needs to be rolled, you know. So you can avoid some of them to maybe pay more for the remaining, so that it can be better, not in
Exactly. We always say, first of all, try and just omit the packaging altogether. But the reality is that we live in a global, you know, situation. We live in cities away from where things are produced, and we ship things around the world. So you have to put things in bags at some point. That's the reality. And we should try and move away from that as much as possible where it's practical to do so. But in some cases, there just isn't a solution. So that's what we're working on.
Yeah. I actually, I think on that point, there's a really important theme that I feel like doesn't necessarily get discussed enough, which is we have today and tomorrow, the short term, and we have the ideal future that I think we're all targeting. And, you know, in this future, ideally, brands, manufacturers, consumers as well, have the opportunity to rethink and redefine not just their wording, but their practices, be that from their margins. Does everything have to be dirt cheap commodities? Maybe that's not necessarily the best practice for the planet. But also, again, like, do you really need a poly bag? What do you actually need versus what has just become accustomed to the practices that all the kind of global manufacturers have. And with that, of course, you also have today where we are, which is that we're not there yet. And I think sometimes it's easy to pretend like you can ignore the reality of the situation and just strive for that long-term future. But we need a solution now, today, that helps to get us to that place where we're not reliant on these systems any longer.
I think that's a really good point, because the decommoditization of packaging is obviously a huge area and trend that I think we're only just starting to see the front of. And it has to do with the fact that packaging has in the past been invisible to the consumer, and it's now very, very visible and upfront, and the first thing that they experience from a product. And so you're seeing the emergence of smart packaging that claims environmental benefits, and you can charge more for that. And I don't think all of that cost should be levied on the consumer. I don't think anyone does. It needs to be shared throughout the kind of production line, the supply chain. But it's clear that, you know, plastic packaging needs to become a bit more expensive, basically, if it's going to solve environmental problems. It's not going to cost exactly the same. And I'm sorry to say that at a time when the cost of everything is going up, but this is the way it's going, really.
Yeah, because, you know, I've been working in factories, not me, myself, but checking the production. And I saw how the brands behaved so far. And so far, the aim of the brand is that the garments land in the retail store without any damage. And so the use of plastic for this is so easy. It costs nothing. And we are talking about the poly bag, but think that inside of the poly bag, sometimes they add some other layers of plastic to protect from the wrinkles, from like silk papers, like carton boards. So it's becoming ridiculous. So we need indeed to educate also the brands to lessen this type of packaging. And maybe you're right, Francis, one of the solution would be to increase the price or to tax the plastic use. Otherwise, yeah.
Tax, exactly, because the true cost of petroleum-based plastic is hidden, and it's hidden because it's nationalized. So you've got a private company producing a product, and then all of the cleanup, the cost of cleanup, the environmental damage is then nationalized, and you're paying for it in your taxes. So taxes then need to be levied back onto the producer to cover that cost. So we're going to see the cost of plastic go up.
Exactly. Yeah. So that, Adam, maybe you want to.
Yeah. So I think the cost thing. So what we're doing as part of the manufacturing and the spinning, because I'm in a really unique position, really, because I have control over absolutely everything that's happening in this process, whereas a bigger brand it would be so difficult for them to trace absolutely every element of the t-shirt that they're making, for example. So I'm able to work from the ground up, so I can trace exactly where the seaweed's coming from. I can trace where the wood is coming from. I can trace obviously where the sea cell is made, and then we've got the fully traceable cotton from Australia, and we're obviously going to show exactly where the bags are from, the cost. And so what we're doing as part of this project is part of the manufacturing is running a project to monitor to basically monitor the carbon, but monitor the traceability and the transparency of the whole entire project, and just show everyone how much this actually costs. And because I'm going to have to justify selling a t-shirt really for a minimum, potentially for probably between £40 and £50, for us to make it a viable, profitable business, really. But obviously consumers are going to turn around and say that's like 3 times what I'd normally spend on a t-shirt, and then you say, well, this is the reason, this is what it all costs, this is the whole supply chain. What I want to then do is then continue to use that kind of model to then improve on it, and then really using our brand at the moment as almost like an experiment to show other bigger brands that, or people, not necessarily other people, but other brands, just people, to show that if we do want to do it in the right way, it is going to cost this amount of money. And maybe that'll go down, like we've just said then about the taxes on plastic. If we can prove models that actually save us money in the long term, we don't get taxed as a society because of plastic and the issues that plastic cause, we've got a solution here which actually doesn't come back on us. It doesn't cause the climate crisis, for example. It actually contributes to solving the climate crisis. That's really, that's what we're using this manufacturing stage really for. And it adds value as well to our product as well. If I can now go to other brands per se and just say, like, we've done this project to monitor the carbon and monitor the traceability, and they can actually use that as a true non-greenwashing marketing tool as well. So
Annick, maybe you could tell us how you think that fashion could reduce efficiently the carbon footprint.
There's a lot of work to be done, which all major groups now are working on, honestly, really, because their shareholders are asking them to do so. They know that if they're not doing so, they will not have any customers in 5 years' time. So now they are running faster than before. And of course, one point is using better materials. In the beginning, maybe recycled materials. Everybody's working hard on how to use recycled garments, which we all have already stored nearby. That's the best immediate solution, I would say, because we hope in 10 years' time we will not have any overstock anymore. And use waste or use plants which don't need any pesticides. That's the key directions where everybody is working, either schools, research companies, all working on those to recycle or find new materials. That's next to your customers. That's the same point. And third, you have to explain to customers that they have to reduce their consumption of garments by 2 each year, which is not, maybe that's the more tough point. Who knows?
Yes, Annick, you're right. You raised one very important point, is to make fashion circular, because so far we are in a linear scale, which means that we extract raw materials, we transform, we produce, we use, and we throw, and it's not workable anymore, of course. And now we need to understand that even the garment waste can be reused, can be recycled in many ways. Could be upcycling, downcycling. There are many opportunities on this. So the education is indeed to not throw your garment in the rubbish bin, but put it in the recycling box. This is one very important point. And also, I would raise the other point, which is the relocalization. It's important because so far we are producing in Far East, and we know that garment production needs a lot of energy, and this energy is produced with electricity, which comes from coal in majority. Coal. Exactly, in China and in India. So when the electrical mix is from petroleum basis, the carbon footprint will be a disaster. We have the chance in France, in Europe, in UK to have more cleaner energy, renewable energies, thanks to the wind, the sea, and the nuclear, which makes it far better for the climate change. So I want now to ask you how the consumers respond. So Adam, for instance, you are brand owner. How consumers respond to your offer?
Yeah, so first of all, when people found out that we were making t-shirts with seaweed, and you get the consumer who pictures like green slimy stuff all on your t-shirt, and they just can't get their head around it. And I think loads of people just don't have any association with seaweed or what it can do, or that it is actually used for so many different things, like toothpaste and things like that. So it's a lot of sort of wow factor, I suppose, which then creates a big talking point. So we deliberately obviously put seaweed fiber. This t-shirt contains seaweed on our t-shirts to more than anything create a talking point. So when that person's wearing the t-shirt, apart from it feeling really soft and nice on the skin, it then becomes a talking point, and then they can go on to say like, oh, actually, seaweed does this, seaweed does that. One of the big sort of surprising feedback that we got when we first did the t-shirts was that most people responded to the health benefits of wearing the material on their skin. So we get a lot of people with skin issues like eczema and things who are seeking out these t-shirts because it's really nice on the skin compared to obviously polyester. Like I always say to people, what would you prefer to have on your skin on a daily basis? A petroleum-based polyester t-shirt that's horrible and just full of oil or whatever, or would you prefer something that contains seaweed and emits vitamins and minerals actually when you wear it, and can biodegrade? And obviously the choice is it's pretty obvious. So people seem to absolutely love it. The feedback after a year of having the t-shirts that we made is amazing. Like the reviews that we've got are really, really good. So yeah, overall, brilliant. Yeah, people absolutely love it. So yeah.
Yeah. Tessa, I would like to ask you, how do you organize the collaboration with your potential customer, which are the fashion brands, which are big groups or smaller brands?
Yeah, this is a really great question and one that's really complex. I mean, I think that for better or worse, we're here at the right time, meaning, the demand has definitely increased in the last 5-10 years, absolutely. And so because of that, we have, a robust network where, not only are we connected with the general public, consumers, brands, suppliers, community is really critical to us. And so with that as well is really analyzing and ensuring that all of our partners, be that customers, collaborators, suppliers, all retain equal kind of mission statements and are clearly committed to transforming their business models through innovation and sustainability. It can be really challenging when trying to evaluate who really means their commitment versus who is doing it more so for greenwashing. So for us, we want to make sure that we're focused on accessibility first. And so what can we do to help get this into the hands of consumers faster, in order to diversify who actually has access to better materials? I firmly believe it shouldn't just be, a luxury product. I think that that's kind of defeating the impact potential. So it's kind of this, long story short, a combination of ensuring that innovation in sustainability is coming from all parts of the company, making sure that they also stand by diversity and equality, and really thinking in the realm of how are we going to expand this? How do we make sure that we're not attacking, but addressing larger market sets so that it's not just based in, strictly one product category as well. So it's a pretty complex answer. I'm sure we could chat about it for about 10 hours, but yeah, it's a really challenging but fun landscape to kind of navigate around right now.
Yeah. So as time is running, I want now to ask to each of you, what are the 3 milestones you wish to achieve in the next future? So maybe Francis, you want to start?
Oh, absolutely. So 3 milestones are: we're going to scale, and then we're going to scale again, and we're going to scale, and we're going to scale. And I'm sorry, that's the kind of cheating answer, but I think it's really the key to actually making an impact here. And just to pick up on what Tessa was talking about, we don't want to make just luxury products, but actually, if you look at the Tesla model, as I call it, where when technology is expensive, you make luxury cars, and then as you can bring the price down, that then starts to flood and enter the mass market. So the early adopters, the brands that use our products, are going to get huge brand value from that. They're going to be able to save money with the Scope 3, Scope 4 carbon emissions legislation. And they're going to be able to share that story with us. As it becomes more widely adopted, everyone's going to be buying it, and you're not going to be noticing, oh, it's Solublue packaging, because Seaweed packaging is going to be everywhere, because it makes sense. We're not the only company doing it, and we shouldn't be. There needs to be 50 Solublues out there doing this, because it's such an important mission that we're on to fix a real environmental and economic problem.
Thank you, Francis.
I definitely agree to that 1000%. I feel like it's almost identical for us as well. especially even that Tesla reference, I feel like comes up so frequently. But I think that really that focus on scale, scale over again, making sure that you're expanding the customer base that you're able to work with. But, you know, again, I think, as we all know, we need to take one step in the right direction. You're not, you know, you can't make it to the end of the marathon without taking that first step. So how are we making sure that we're going to do that in order to get to that idealized future that I think we all are on the same page about?
Thank you, Tessa.
Yeah, cheers. I totally echo both Francis and Tessa there. I suppose like we don't not only want to scale, but we just want to scale in the right way. I've come to realise that no matter what, especially manufacturing here in the UK, we're talking 50% more expensive than most places around the world, if not more, to produce. So it has to be a luxury, and I hate saying luxury as well. Like I've tried to fight against that, but I'm going to have to. I've always wanted Inland Sea to be really accessible, and we're supposed to be like a family brand, very accessible family brand, and basically go against like environmentally friendly products shouldn't be expensive. They should be totally accessible for people. So, but unfortunately, to get us going, to get us starting, we are going to have to market these t-shirts to start with as a luxury item until it comes down. So that business model has to be taken on. And hopefully it will slowly trickle down. But like the three milestones really is like nail this year's infrastructure and production, so that we've got something really solid, and we know the cost of it, and we know the energy, and we know the supply chain, the traceability, and then just slowly, hopefully, make it more accessible for everybody, and be totally there for when the polybags are there, and just be the brand that shows the other brands how it needs to be done, or how it can be done. We're only very, very small, which makes it much easier for us anyway to get all these things in place before it all properly scales up. So
yes. Annick?
Our goal is not really to scale, because we scale organically. About one company joins us every day, so that's that's a lot. We want to help companies to go faster. Going fast is our key point, and we want to use frugal innovation. I mean, innovation which is not too costly, so that we can implement it very fast in small companies or big companies.
So thank you to everybody. As a short conclusion, I would say that creating a sustainable value chain for seaweed should not replicate the same mistake as prevailed so far. And as what I understand here today, we could grow the seaweed sector in a more collaborative way than it used to be. And finally, I think that everybody understood that the seaweed is a real fantastic opportunity for fashion brands and distributors to reach their CSR goals toward sustainability and transparency. Thank you, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll give the mic back to Pierre and to Biomarine. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Cheers, Oreste.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
Cheers.